Alright, what's up, guys? We have another exciting deck profile today. Today we're doing the Marincess deck. This is, I don't want to say a new deck, but came out last set. It was, I would say, decent, but now it got a ton of new support. It's finally got its field spell. Its field spell is kind of like the bow that puts everything together. Without it, might as well not play the deck, might as well play something else. But yeah, definitely a very, very cool deck. Also, we got the Searcher, we got the cards that work with the field spell. But overall, it's a very fun control deck. But at the same time, this deck, what's pretty awesome about it is that it does put out some pretty amazing monsters. It creates monsters that are 4,500 attack that are unaffected. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's very good. And I mean, the only problem I have with the deck basically is that they're cyberse. That's about it. It doesn't really make sense that they're cyberse. Nothing about them looks like cyberse. They should have been fish, but I guess I can't do anything about that. But let's get started. We've got 3 copies of the brand new card, Marincess Blue Tang. Yes, you should play 3. I might do a combo video. Let me know in the comments section below if you think I should do that. Drop a like while you're down there. If you want a combo video, I'll definitely put one up. But like I said, this, yeah, definitely max out on this one. This one is the combo starter. It mills your next card, which is the Seahorse. But not only that, when this card's linked away, you can reveal 3 cards off the top of your deck, and then add a Marincess card from your deck to your hand. So in many cases, this card ends up being easily, it's a +1 when it's linked away. And then on top of that, it gets you a card in the graveyard, which eventually gets you a free summon. So definitely max out on this one. Unfortunately, it is the most expensive card right now, but what can you do? Then we've got 3 copies of Marincess Seahorse. This card you can special summon to a zone that a Marincess Link monster points to. And then additionally, you can banish this from the graveyard and then special summon a water monster from your hand to a zone of Marincess monster. Marincess Link monster points to. This also has cool synergies because it is a water monster. It does have cool synergies with Swap Frog because you can banish this out of the graveyard, summon a Swap Frog, and then send the Rodentone to the graveyard. So it's a really good interaction. Got to remember that for combos. But yeah, definitely an awesome card in that regard. Then we play 3 of the new monster, which is the Marincess Mandarin. This card is another one that's extremely interesting. You do want to see, it would be nice to see any of these 3 in your opening hand. Plus, we do play the Cyanide Mining, so you probably will see these in your opening hand. But this one you actually want to get in the graveyard if you can't, if off of the Blue Tang. So you either send the Seahorse or this to the graveyard, depending on what you don't have. But basically, this card, if you control 2 or more Marincess monsters, even if this card is in the hand or graveyard, you can target a water link monster you control and then special summon this card to a zone it points to. And then on top of that, you have to banish this when it leaves the field. But what's cool about this card is that it's kind of like Salamangreat Spinny. Since it's kind of like a free summon from the graveyard, it recurs itself. But definitely an awesome card. Definitely a 3 of max out on this one. It helps you kind of play a longer game. Then we play 3 copies of Swap Frog. Most of you should know what this does on summon. Sends a level 2 or lower water monster to the graveyard, and then you can bounce this to your hand to get an extra summon of a frog. But that's incredibly useful. Then we play 2 copies of Dupe Frog. This card, pretty simple too. It just basically reroutes every single attack of your opponents back to this card, and then when this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add a frog monster to your hand. But you got to watch out with that effect. It does miss timing. It is poorly written, so unless it's the last thing to activate, you're not getting to use that effect. Then we play 2 copies of Rodentone. I use 2 because, unfortunately, Call by the Grave is very, very common, and not only that, but you don't want to lose the single one that you have to a Call by the Grave, because then your strategy sort of gets crippled. Because this is actually not only like a starter card that you use once, you will actually continuously use this throughout the duel. So you definitely can't play one and lose that one Rodentone. You wanna keep resolving it over and over and over until you have no more frog targets to banish. But definitely you want to do that. I play 1 copy of Sea Archiver. I don't know if people are playing this or not, but I mean, I think it's a very good card for the deck. It's a water monster. It's a cyberse monster. It just fits the deck like a glove. It would be nicer if it was a different level possibly, but certainly it's basically like a free summon because your Marincess monsters will always point to something. And not only that, the requirements for a lot of the Marincess monsters is actually just two waters. Like the more important ones only require two waters, like Coral and Enemy. So to give yourself a free summon, it's not really that bad, and it's never really a minus because if you discard this off of like a Signet Mining, or you discard it for a Swap Frog or something like that, you could just get it back later. So it turns those sort of minuses into pluses later on. So definitely playing one of those, but no more than one. And then we play 3 copies of Ash because it's the most generic field spell. I mean, not field spell, hand trap. It's the best against the most cards, basically. Then for our spell cards, we play 1 copy of Marincess Battle Ocean. This is the new Marincess field spell. It does like so much for the deck. All right, first of all Marincess monsters on the field gain 200 attack. That is like a flat thing. And then for each Marincess monster equipped to a monster, they gain 600. So typically, you can equip up to 3. So automatically, that Marincess monster will gain 2,000 attack. On top of that, when Marincess monster is a link summon using Marincess Crystal Heart as link material, it's unaffected by your opponent's card effects. So you basically special summon you special summon like a Marincess monster as long as you use the Coral Heart, the Crystal Heart. Let's say you summon Marbled Rock, you link 3 monsters to it. This becomes 4,500 attack, and it's unaffected by a card. It's like a masterpiece, honestly. It's really really crazy. And you get to do that every single time you summon. And I don't think it's even once per turn at the bottom here. You can keep linking and attaching things to them. It's kind of insane. But that is our new field spell. Very good. Ties the knot together. We're only waiting for one more Marincess card and the deck will be complete. Play 3 copies of Signet Mining. Searches virtually the entire deck outside of the frogs. 1 Foolish Burial, because sometimes you need to get stuff in the graveyard, get the engine sort of going. Maybe you draw an awkward hand, you got to get something in there. 3 copies of Call by the Grave, because we don't want to lose to stupid hand traps. And that is it for the spells. Then for the trap cards, we play 3 copies of Marincess Wave. This card is like really good. It's like Impermanence, but better. Like, alright, so if you control a Marincess Link monster, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and negate that monster's effects until the end phase. So it's really good for that. And then if you control a Link 2 or higher Marincess monster, all face-up monsters you currently control are unaffected by your opponent's card effects. So even if you have like a totally awesome on the field, it's unaffected by your opponent's card effects. And anything you have on the field is unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end of the turn. And then on top of that, if you have a Link 3 or higher Marincess monster, you can activate this from your hand, which is just insane. Because you can have a full field and still activate this from your hand. But this card's really, really good. And you can usually rip it off the top of your deck with the Blue Tang, this is the most optimal card to rip off the top of your deck. Then we played 3 copies of Paleozoic Dinomischus. This card is extremely good because it's like free spot removal of any face-up card. So if your opponent has some sort of frustrating, like what would be annoying to play against with this deck? I guess there could only be one could be annoying. Although you do alternate between Aqua monsters and then you alternate between Aqua and cyberse, but still it'd be annoying. So it's good for that. And on top of that, we play a decent amount of trap cards, so you get to summon this back and go into more Totally Awesomes and get free 1,200 attack monsters. But 3 of that. And then, of course, since we are playing that, you can discard stuff like Sea Archiver or what's another one? Like we can discard Sea Archiver or Mandarin or the Rodentonin if we draw one. Like there's a lot of stuff to discard that doesn't even hurt you in the long run. So it's awesome for that. And then we play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, and Solemn Judgment is terrific in this deck because, like I said, it's a going first sort of control deck. So you're already summoning this giant unaffected monster, and you're basically protecting that monster in the field spell. And outside of that, like it doesn't really matter what happens to you because all you need to do is protect. Just have to protect the field spell. So you just set Solemns, and your opponent can't really do anything about it. And then for our last card, we play Last Hand Trap, Infinite Impermanence. Just again, it's next to Ash probably. the best hand trap. It's good because it can't really be interrupted. Ash is better against more decks, but Infinite Impermanence is better overall because it can't be called by the grave. I guess it can be red rebooted, but I mean they have to see it coming in advance, and then you get to set another trap card. So how good could it really be? So yeah, that's it. That is it for the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. The extra deck we play 2 copies of Totally Awesome. This is one of like the coolest cards to ever be printed. Like Awesome Negate tributes a monster, which is usually a water monster that benefits you anyway. And then you can steal the card that you negate, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a water monster back to your hand, which is just bananas. Really, really crazy card, but it had to be crazy. 2 copies of Blue Slug. This card, when it's link summoned, you target a Marincess monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And then it locks you into waters, but literally your entire main deck, and probably I'd say 80% of your extra deck is water, so it doesn't even matter. 1 Marincess Sea Angel. This adds the field spell or any other Marincess spell card, but we only have one right now. If there is more that come out, this card might even be better, but it's already a very good card. 3 copies of Coral Anemone. This card is terrific. This is the card that's sort of the central card, the grind game card. You can target a water monster and summon it back with 1500 or less attack, which is already good because a lot of the link monsters fit that criteria. The Swap Frog fits that criteria, so you can do all types of continuing combos with Swap Frog with this. And then when this card's linked away, you get a Marincess monster from your graveyard back to your hand. So this is definitely probably, without a doubt, this is probably the best card in the deck. Because it does so much overall for consistency. Then we've got the Crystal Heart. This card basically is unaffected by your opponent's monster effects while it's in the extra monster zone, so it can't be like Nibiru'd on top of just other various monster effects. And on top of it, this lets you create the extra large unaffected monster because you need to use this as link material in order for your bigger link monster to not be affected by card effects. Then we play 2 copies of Marbled Rock. This is typically the end board monster that you'll leave, and on top of that, it lets you add another Marincess card back to your hand. So just more pluses. And then we've got the Link 4, which I would say is the Link 4 is decent. It's kind of cool, but I mean I would usually on my end boards rather end on the Marbled Rock than the Wonder Heart, but Wonder Heart lets you special summon monsters. When this card battles, basically you can special summon the monster that is equipped to it back to the field, and then during the end phase it gets re-equipped back in the spell and trap card zone. But different effects can go off when they leave the equip zone and are summoned. And then for our last monsters, we play 1 Mystari Boy. Just attack boost on top of that. It can get a card back to your hand. Boral Sword to sort of end games, and then 1 Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, because I think it's just one of the best Link monsters ever printed. And this deck, Link climbs very easily, and if you make this against certain decks like Altergeist or like Magical Musketeers, they just do not have an out to this card. So if you can summon it, they basically have lost the game. And it's like I said, it's very easy to summon in this deck as long as you don't activate any of the effects that lock you into water monsters. But that is it. Thank you for watching, and if you want that combo video, let me know.